The United States has a particular history, which I will try to restate this in a way, because what has happened in the United States is a reflection of the attitudes that are developing and sharpening in Europe. That is, we know that there's a great amount of renewed xenophobia, anti-immigrant attitude all over Europe. And as Michael was suggesting, this is reflected in political parties, right-wing, anti-immigrant political parties. And, you know, when somebody says they're anti-immigrant, they usually don't stop with just the people who are moving in. But they also extend that to the people who look like the people who are moving in that are already there. And so it becomes something that compounds and kind of gives a lot of nourishment for the kinds of discriminations which exist in the society. Where am I at? About 5 minutes? I count 5, 6 minutes, somewhere like that. See, the thing that happened in Europe, in the US we know we have race, right? So the thing that happened in Europe is that they have begun to racialize things which otherwise you wouldn't have expected to become racialized, like religion. You know, now in the US, if you're an Arab, you you check off on the census white. Now, it's probably not too many people these days thinking that Arabs and whites are the same. But that's because of the political conversation that's happening. But the political conversation that led to that particular designation was different than the one we are having now. But I'm quite sure there will be questions raised about whether the Arabs really are white, which would be an exception, because usually it goes the other way. A group arrives in the US, say like the Jews, and first they're not white, then they become white. The Irish, they're not white, then they become white. So there's a process in which this construction of race is fluid, and it changes because it doesn't have any basis in us genetically, and it is based on our concept about our relationships with each other. Now, the United States, if you can just get abstract with me, starts out with this group of people, and this is the Native American population. Then come the migrants. The first group of migrants are those coming from the European diaspora, and they come with devastating impact on the indigenous population: war, disease, relocation, everything that has become negative about understanding how you treat people when they come to your society was done to those who were already here. Let's remember that when we start thinking about what we do with immigrants, especially those who are suffering something and find their ways to the shores of the US. Now, the African diaspora, contrary to some people in the current administration, were not just immigrants. They were brought here by force. It was a violent force. It was an institution called enslavement. And that group helped transform America as well, because they brought everything they brought from Africa and put it in a space in which they were oppressed, enslaved, and all those things that go with that. And then you had who did I just add? Oh, the Latino population. Now, you know, okay, in reality, Latinos had to be around much longer than this. But this is when we started counting them, okay? And so when we started counting them, this is how we count. Now, even when we started counting them, 90% of them said they were white. You know, because if you're in the US, it's better to be white. Come on, okay. And then we had the Asian population. This basically gives you the US population. So I wanted to try to measure this. So here's an index of diversity. That's what this line is. And it just basically shows you the flows of diversity. And what happened with the restraints put on, first you get this big increase. Oh, right, I have a thing. You get this big increase as a consequence of the demise of the Native American population, the rise of the European and the African population, and then it starts going down because there's basically just a continued rise of the European population, especially once you had the end of the slave trade, blah, 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 so forth and so on, till you end up at a period around here where we're now raising this question again. That is, My colleagues have suggested to you a lot about what happened in between these two periods to get us here. But here now we are where diversity is on the rise. And I've already suggested to you that it is inevitable. You're not going to stop it, whatever you try to do.